The purpose of this channel is to not necessarily show the best way of doing something, it's to show a way of doing something. And if you've been watching for a while, you know that I've learned as I go. So I want to encourage you, don't be afraid to try new things. And if you really can't stand to destroy something, then practice on something that you can destroy. And it's not a big deal. Otherwise, you'll gain lots of experience and you'll be satisfied with your results, or not, the more you practice. So keep practicing, don't be afraid. In this video I do some experimentation, find out what works and what doesn't work in taking this very twisted and dinted hood and trying to make it look somewhat presentable. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to do another video after this one. I've just got too much down, and I think it's valuable to see what I've been doing, and you can decide what is going to work for you and what isn't. And you can judge by my failures as well. Stick around, hope you enjoy. Here's the hood skin to the F-150, which has got lots of little spots that have to be shrunk, and it's got little dings in it all over the place. These rust spots here that you see, the whole hood was rusty, and I ground it off so you can tell those are low spots. There's a number of those. So I've been doing what some people do, which is to heat it up and then flatten it and quench it. And I'm not happy with the results. Some people seem to be able to do this and get a very smooth finish, but I'm not. I get these little wrinkles, which are then very hard to take out. Some of this you can see is, some of that's my hammer work. Like there, it looks like I went off angle, and there. But it tends to get these weird little wrinkles down in the dent. So I'm going to try something new. I found out that if I hold the dolly loosely, say I raise a piece, I hold this loosely underneath, and then I tap rapidly and lightly with this hammer with a flat surface, it tends to shrink. There was a big dent here and it shrunk it, so now I just have a dent there, which was part of it before. It's not showing up very well. Maybe you can see my hand going up and down, but right in here there's a big low spot. This was a low spot too, but that now is flat, and see, it doesn't dip. Likewise here. Likewise here. This is a high spot. I got rid of it. There's a little wrinkle there to get rid of. Likewise here. That's okay. That's good. So progress is being made, but I'm going to try with the air hammer and a light touch with this underneath. If not, then I will go back to the manual method. So let's see what happens. With the air hammer, I'm able to take out a lot of the little wrinkles. Just lightly running it around. The harder you push, the more you're going to stretch the metal, because you're pushing tight against the dolly as well. So that doesn't work for shrinking, but it has worked for smoothing it out. So I will continue to do that. And I don't know if you can see it or not. There's a dip through here, so that's got to be shrunk. So I would go back to the manual method with the hammer and the light touch with the dolly. It seems to work better. And I don't get that, well, I'm not changing the temper of the metal either, heating it up too much. And I'm ending up with a better job. So I'll show you what I do with that. I'll bang this up. Go. Light touch. It's up here, still dip through here, a lot less though. Yep, that's good. A little bit more shrink in there. That's the idea. This is all wrinkly through here. I'll show you what I do with the air hammer. Find a bad spot right in there. A lot smoother, but now it's stretched. A little bit worse. Dip through here, a little bit high here. So I'll continue on. I added a little rigidity to this since it was flexing and flopping too much. So I just put a stand, a roller stand underneath just to hold it a little more firm. So here we have an oil can. It's up high. Hear how quiet that is. Here's the other one. Yeah. I guess it's cooled a little more. Things have changed. There was the loudest spot was here. Now it is not. Okay, there's the loudest spot. See how quiet that is? A little louder. There it is. That's the spot that's loudest. So I'm going to shrink right there. One thing that roller stand allows too is I can get more heat because I can push a little harder. So this now does not move. So we're back to here. The center of it's right there. That's where I'm going to heat. There it is. There's still a bit of a high spot here, but no oil canning. So it's pretty darn close. A bit more dolly work in there should help. So now let's try and smooth out a little bit more of this. Over here, low spot here, high spot here. Still, low spot in here, high spot here, low spot there, etc. That could all be filled, but I want to get better than that. There's no oil canning back here or there, but here, one, and there's one there. There's a big one here, but that's the loudest. So I'm going to start with that one right there. Okay, so no oil canning here. It was before. It's over here still. Go for the loudest, I say. Right there. Sometimes too you can find that it might look high, say a spot there, and go through, but if you actually do over here, it shrinks and pulls everything across. So far it seems to work. Finding the loudest spot and trying that first. Just to show the progress. Still a bit of an oil can there, but the noise, the big flex is gone. And that was a case of heating here, then it's loud here, and then I had one here. Way better. Still a bit of a high spot there, but way better than it was. Progress. Slow, but progress. Just to show it can be done. No oil can. Perfect. Little dip dents here and there that I have to work on, but do it carefully. And I still have to smooth out over here. It's rough and there's a dent in here, etc. Dents over here. But it's getting better. And then I'll have to do a final check after I get it where I think it's good. I'll put it on the frame of the hood, and then just to make sure that I don't have it twisted now, because the frame is straight. I've done all that. So once this sits on it, if it flexes at all, then I'll get a new oil can somewhere. So it's going to be a progress, a work in progress. Hopefully without getting mad enough to smash something. I don't have any one area of the hood finished yet, but this is better. It's got a little low spot through here. I'm having a lot of trouble getting rid of this high spot right here. I've done it 3 times now and it still is up, so do a little bit more with that yet. Of course, everything gets a little bit more. One thing to watch, it's very important on a big flat panel like this, is that you have it even. For instance, tin canning there, if I pull this down, it's a lot harder to push on it. Likewise, I have a low spot here, now it's not nearly as low. And now this oil can is, but it tends to hold position otherwise. So what I did was I went around and I measured each corner to the ground, and the shop floor is flat and level. So I made those even, those corners. I put a 2x4 of sorts, a piece of a 2x4, right in the middle, and I clamped it even distance from the seam, from the raised portion. As you can see, it's not even distance right there. There. This one has fallen off a few times. And likewise on this side, I measured in 4 places because it has a bend to it. I measured in this corner and this seam here on both sides and made it even. Because if it's not, as I showed, you'll have indications that it has a low spot when it really doesn't, or a high spot when it really doesn't. That's where I went wrong with the door. The frame was bent. I took the skin off, straightened it, happy with it, put it back on, and the door frame was bent and I didn't realize it. Likewise with the front fender. So those I have to redo. Although I replaced the door with a used one and fixed the rust in it and put it on. So that was easier in the long run. But I want to gain some experience, and if this helps you, I'm happy with that as well. So it has a basic shape, which it definitely didn't before. This was all crumpled. It was all in here, smashed. It's getting there, I think. Maybe if I close my eyes. Stay tuned. I've been trying different things with this, and I have used an acetylene torch before, oxyacetylene, but propane is actually easier to control. It takes a little longer, but you can heat a bigger area slowly, whereas the oxyacetylene tends to heat very quickly, and then you have to turn it off. So I'll keep working on these spots, but I've been trying it with the slapping hammer. This is just an old file that was dull, and I've ground it down. You can use that. This hammer I've used, and this dolly, as well as this dolly. Look at getting the coating from underneath. So one thing to watch with the coating on some hoods is that gives off smoke, which is toxic. Makes me hack and cough. So definitely wear a respirator. Not just a painting mask, but something that actually filters out toxic fumes, which is what I'm using. So that works. Just a slow process. If I knew what I was doing, it'd probably be faster. But the purpose of this channel is not to show what I know, to show what I learn. Here's a perfect example of what I was saying about working off frame and trying to resolve issues that really don't exist. There's a huge oil can here, and now that I've clamped it down onto the frame, at the back as well, corners, that does not exist. Got a little bit of a dip there for me working on it, because that's popped up. This had a big dip, doesn't exist. This has a nice curve, we've still got a high spot there. Inside is good. I've got dust and stuff on here. Could clean off. And a bit of a dip there because it's rising right here. And this was a big dip, and that's gone. So, always check it on the frame. That's the lesson. Or you'll be resolving issues that don't exist, and then when you put it on the frame, you'll have new issues. There's enough issues. Don't need more. I've been playing around with different ways of doing this. Remember this bump here that was really persistent? I could never get anywhere on it. And some people have said to heat the metal red. I didn't find that an advantage. Or black. I didn't find that an advantage either. What I found was that if I heat it with a propane torch, it heats it a little slower than oxyacetylene. And as soon as it warps up or down, then turn off the torch and beat the tar out of it, and then cool it really quickly. And some people use air for that. I've been using water and a wet cloth. And I got rid of this one. A little dip there, very slight. I'll work with that yet. And there's still a little dip here. But that big dip is gone. And I did that by working around. I didn't go right at the middle of it. I worked around the edges, taking out dips that were on the sides, and then that helped to pull this flat. So I've still got, like I said, I've still got a bit there, and I've got a bit here to do. This is a bad one here. I don't know if you can see it in the light, but it's probably about 1/8 of an inch rise there. So I will show you how that works with the torch. But first, I'll try and take care of these two, have my lunch, and then we'll start when I have a full stomach. Makes me think better, or so I think. So you can see here, use this flat file, body slap. You can see there's a raised up there. So this is, from the top side, this would be a dip. And it goes a fairly large area. So I'm going to start heating on the sides to pull this tighter. I've tried previously heating it in the middle and no success at all. And I'm in grave danger now of work hardening this metal. So see what I can do here. I'm going to try a little experiment, use the heat gun. I do have a nozzle that is 90 degrees. It reduces this to 1/2 inch. But I took it off weeks ago and it's buried somewhere. It's the trouble with reorganizing. So I'm going to try the big tip anyway, see if that does anything. So the idea is I heat it till it warps worse than it is now. Then I hammer it to try and compress the center of the hot spot, thereby making it thicker, pulling the metal in, and then I cool it with a wet rag. So there it is. Start right there. Yeah, it's starting to warp. Obviously not very fast. So I'll go back to the propane torch. I'll just do this one spot anyway. There's warping. Let's see if this works. Okay, so it's not nearly as warped as it was. A little bit there yet. So I've heated here, shrunk it, heated here and shrunk it. I'm going to heat it there. Better success with the body slapper than with a dolly, because of the length of it. Hammer some the dolly work to get some of the marks out of there. But there you have it. I couldn't get anywhere with that one. 3 working from the outside, pulled it all flat. So I have these 2, by the way, old files. This was an old Farrier's rasp and file. I just ground them down, got the rust out for the most part. If I go any deeper, then I'll end up with a really thin hammer, and I don't want that. So I curve the end slightly. I've got the balance off a little bit on this one. It's a little bit front end heavy. Whereas this one is okay. So this is an old dull file. Ground it flat. You can polish them up quite well with sandpaper, and like an orbital sander, or even a 4.5 inch, or an air 4.5 inch as well. Polish them up maybe someday. Right now they're working, so I'm sticking with that. It's good to have a selection of hammers. This is my all-time favorite. It's flat end. I rarely ever use the pick. This one, I've used this at times to take out dents on seams, like along here for instance. And that's the shrinking hammer. It does work. It's a little slow. This one is good for removing little high spots. Just a gentle tap with a dolly on the back side, like that. And you can work the high spots down. That's where there's lots of little marks, like from shrinking. There's all sorts of roughness in here. I can go through and just take the little tiny high spots, or from the other side. And then likewise here, this one, depending how pronounced you want it to be. And then this one is useful at times for working along seams. Fairly flat, but not perfectly, so it also can be used in situations like that. So those are the ones I use, but almost always this one. Just whatever you like. The one thing I have yet to work on in this hood, well, there's a number of things, but immediately that this edge is kind of beat up. So I took this 1/2 inch bar stock, and it's hollow. I could use solid, but I don't have any that are 4 feet long. This one's hollow and it's 4 feet long, so I'm using it. As far as I can tell from the truck, it's got about a 1/4 inch bend right in the middle. So the top, so this center portion is a 1/4 inch out from these edges here and here before it bends back. So I've bent that. Now I'm going to put it in the hood, clamp it, and start working this edge to get it more square, more even. Because now it's kind of, it sticks out here. It's got a few ripples. I've taken most of them out, the big ones anyway. There's still a few left, smaller ones, and it's kind of dipped as well from taking it off the frame. And that may straighten out when I put it back on, but I'd like to try and get that straighter first, because once it's on, it's too late. So I filled the holes. Got one small hole left here. I'm not going to worry about that because it's all going to be filled anyway. I just used oxyacetylene and rod. Sometimes it's just easier. So I think I've got everything on the edges and the front where it needs to be for filler. The center portions of the hood I'm not going to worry about until I test fit it on the frame and see how it flexes, because as it flexes it will change those big dents. And as I showed before, one of them pops right out. So do that first, then I'll see what I'm up against. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, or even notify, or any of the above, or all of the above. Thank you.